Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal Hill takes place this weekend in the main event of UFC 283. Teixeira versus Hill for the vacant light heavyweight title. The winner will be crowned the champion of the light heavyweight division. So this is a very important matchup. And I know people are going to say, well, you know, whoever wins isn't really the real champ. But depending on how they win, they may actually be considered the real champion, because Jiri Prochazka, remember, was losing that fight to Glover Teixeira. Fair enough, he won in the end anyway. But a lot of people do still consider Glover Teixeira a guy who would have won that Jiri Prochazka matchup more than 5 times out of 10. So if Glover Teixeira goes out there and dominates Jamahal Hill, there's still an argument to say that he is the best light heavyweight on earth. And if Jamahal Hill goes out there and makes easy work of Glover Teixeira, a guy who Jiri Prochazka struggled massively against, then there's an argument for him as well. So this is a very big matchup, and I think that it comes down to this. Jamahal Hill has about 3 minutes to KO Glover Teixeira in the first round, and if he doesn't do that, he has about a minute every single round to try and KO Glover Teixeira until Glover eventually finishes him on the ground by submission. Do I believe that Jamahal Hill is going to be able to finish Glover Teixeira in that first round is the question. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, in all honesty. And we've seen, I know he's going to be preparing his grappling for this fight, but in all honesty, this wasn't ideal circumstances for Jamahal Hill. It really wasn't. Glover Teixeira was preparing his grappling for the light heavyweight title in December against Jiri Prochazka in a rematch, who's a striker that he wants to get to the ground. He then paused that training camp for a couple of weeks and then resumed right away again in order to take this fight against Jamahal Hill right back into training camp. So Glover Teixeira was in shape. Jamahal Hill, he's never going to be in peak shape anyway. He's always going to have a bit of the belly. I think that's just kind of how he's built. But he wasn't in good shape when he took this fight. He was drinking, enjoying himself, had a massive gut on him around Christmas. And now he's stepping in to take this fight. And I think he took it on like 6 weeks notice or something along those lines. Maybe something like that. And it's not ideal for Jamahal Hill. It really isn't ideal for Jamahal Hill. In fact, it might be less than, it might be like 5 weeks notice that he stepped in and took this fight, in all honesty. Is that enough to develop the game plan and the drilling that you need to do and the amount of drills that you need to do, stuffing takedowns, to deal with Glover Teixeira's grappling game? I don't believe so. So I do believe if Glover Teixeira gets a hold of Jamahal Hill in this fight, he will submit him. We've seen Thiago Santos, and I know Jamahal Hill wasn't specifically preparing for defensive grappling in that matchup for Thiago Santos, because Santos up until that point has been pretty much a striker only, so he doesn't really shoot takedowns. I get it, they were a surprise, but even though they're a surprise, Santos ain't the offensive grappler that Glover Teixeira is, and Glover Teixeira, he's good at it, man. He's really good, and Jamahal Hill in round 3 was kind of getting manhandled a little bit by Thiago Santos. Now, Santos wasn't finishing him or beating him up on the ground, I get it, but he was able to start throwing around Jamahal Hill as that fight went on, and he was even more successful in the second round as well. So I think Jamahal Hill has that 3-minute window in round 1. I think he'll get taken down at the end of round 1 and beaten up a bit and maybe put in some dangerous positions but not really finished. Maybe he'll get back up once and then end up against a cage for the rest of the round. But I think in round 2, I think that's where we're going to start to see Glover Teixeira take over. And he showed against Jiri he can keep a crazy, crazy pace for like longer than Santos can. He kept that pace with Jiri for 4 rounds, 4 minutes and 50 seconds pretty much. You know what I mean? Before he eventually started to slow down and make some mistakes. He was on top of Jiri with like a minute to go. So he can keep that pace. And I think in round 2, he's going to find that rear naked choke. But can Jamahal Hill KO Glover Teixeira in the first round is the question. First of all, I want to mention this. I have criminally disregarded Glover Teixeira's chin throughout his career because I was picking against him in the Anthony Smith fight, in the Thiago Santos fight, I even picked against. I think I picked him to beat Yuri eventually in the end, but I even think I picked Kutalaba to beat him back in the day because I saw Carl Roberson hurt him at one moment in the first round. But Glover Teixeira has shown time and time again, and more specifically in his last fight against a big power puncher in Yuri Prohaska, who has KO'd guys like Volkan Ozdemir with that 1-2 combo and stuff like that. So it's not like Jamahal Hill is showing a level of power that Yuri didn't show on his rise up the light heavyweight division. I mean, if we're going to say that by KOing Johnny Walker in the first round, that's a true sign that you have KO power, Corey Anderson has one-punch KO power then. You know what I mean? And he's not a big power puncher himself. So I feel like Jamahal Hill, he has got power in his hands, but it's not that Rumble Johnson power. You know what I mean? It's not power that Teixeira's never felt before. I think Santos and Hill might have similar power levels. In fact, I'd hazard a guess and say that Thiago Santos might hit as hard or harder than Jamahal Hill. You know what I mean? I know that, you know, Walker took some shots against Santos, but both of them were just hesitant and not really going for each other in that fight, and it was a stalemate for 5 rounds between Santos and Walker. But I feel like Teixeira can take the shots of Hill. It's going to be dangerous for him. But, hey, if only there was like a 6'4", one-punch knockout artist striker that throws a bunch of hooks and walks down his opponents that Glover Teixeira could prepare with for this matchup. Oh, wait. The middleweight champion, Alex Pereira. My bad. Who's probably heavier than Jamahal Hill, especially when he's not in training camp. Hits harder than Jamahal Hill. Strikes better than Jamahal Hill. He's a far better striker. Has more educated pressure. Obviously, probably doesn't have the same takedown defense as Jamahal Hill, a guy who's been in the game for a very long time the way he has. But what good preparation that is. You know what I mean? Alex Pereira. Oh, Glover, you need a guy to walk you down and try and land KO blows before you take them down. What do you know? Alex Pereira's in your training camp ready to prepare. Vamos. You know what I mean? Let's get it done. I think he's got good preparation for this. I think he's got the advantage over Jamahal Hill preparation-wise. Would I be surprised if Jamahal Hill finds a KO blow and all of a sudden we start to see a decline of Glover and his chin's now gone and all of a sudden Jamahal Hill's the light heavyweight champ? I wouldn't be surprised, in all honesty, because Jamahal Hill can throw them hands. I just think all is in favour of Glover Teixeira and they've made him an underdog. And that don't make sense to me. That don't make sense to me at all. So I've got to go with Glover here. And I've got to go with him by second round rear naked choke. Jamahal Hill showed in his Thiago Santos fight, and I know he's going to be prepared to not show this against Glover Teixeira. He's going to put in the work to make sure this doesn't happen. That's obvious. But it still happens when you get tired and you get scrappy and both guys are swinging. And let's not act like Glover can't swing him. You know, that's something that Jamahal Hill's going to have to be worried about. Because I noticed when he was fighting Santos, he was like really dropping his hands right down to get those underhooks as soon as Santos went for the takedown. And Glover's lower down, bobs his head a lot, level changes a lot, throws hooks over the top. Don't be surprised if Glover's the one pressing Hill back in the first round of this fight, because Hill might be nervous. I mean, he's been in main events, but he's never been... Last time he was in front of a crowd, he lost to Paul Craig, as far as I'm remembering with Jamahal Hill's career. Like, he's very new to the game, but he's also new to the spotlight as well, because he's very low ranked for a guy getting a title shot. It's just how it is and how things have worked out. So it's not his fault, but at the same time, I'm just going to double check this. I think the Santos fight was in the Apex. Yes, it was. It was in the Apex. I want to say the Johnny Walker main event was in the Apex. Yes, it was. Title fight. This is... Glover's been here, done it. Glover's been here, done it. And Jamahal Hill, this is the biggest moment. It's rushed. It's not in ideal circumstances for him. The last time he fought in front of a crowd, it was against Paul Craig, and he got absolutely dismantled and had his arm hanging off in Glendale, Arizona, at UFC 263. And this is his first time fighting for a belt. Biggest moment of his life. Once in a lifetime opportunity for him. On 5 weeks' notice. Not a great style matchup for him either. He knows Glover's going to be looking for the takedown. And it's his first time in front of a hostile Brazilian crowd. Either Jamahal Hill rises to the occasion and a superstar is born, Or the more likely scenario of it, what I believe is going to happen, is that he's going to kind of fold, second guess himself on the feet, and Glover's going to take over as the fight goes on and find his submission. So I'm siding with Glover getting this one done. I am. Jamahal Hill's dangerous, though. Very, very dangerous. But Glover is just also very dangerous. You know, Glover can swing him. You know, Glover can swing him, and he's not like Johnny Walker. Like, he's not going to be backing up with his chin in the air against Jamahal Hill. Glover Teixeira has gotten very good since Rumble snuffed him with that uppercut. Sorry, there's one hair hanging out here this whole video that's been really annoying me, and I can't get it or tell where it is. It's very strange and annoying, but either way, there it is again, pinged its way out. Either way, Glover Teixeira is not going to be backing up, throwing shots with his chin in the air on the defense like Johnny Walker was. He's either going to be pressuring Jamahal Hill with his hands very high, bobbing and weaving in true Glover Teixeira fashion, before eventually trying to find that takedown or push Jamahal Hill up against a cage. Or he's going to be on the back foot, very patient, seeing what Jamahal Hill's going to do, feinting at Jamahal Hill, playing with Jamahal Hill's hands, you know what I mean, keeping his guard nice and tight. It's a different type of opponent than Johnny Walker. With Johnny Walker, there's that ability to find that KO blow because Walker's chin's made out of glass. Glover's proven time and time again that it isn't. And I think it's time to start paying attention to that. And he's looking in good shape. He looked good in his last fight. Even though he took some damage in that fight, he still looked good in that last fight. And Thiago Santos in his fight against Jamahal Hill, I made a video on my second channel about this that I guess I can plug at the end of this. On the MMA Guru Clips, which is my second channel where I break down fight film, I showed Jamahal Hill's takedown defense in a video. And basically what the conclusion was originally his takedown defense is pretty good. Initially, sorry. His takedown defense is pretty good. He can stuff a couple single legs, keep his balance, and he's quite strong. But when you start chaining takedowns together, there seems to be a habit in Jamahal Hill's game where he gives up his back, trying to stand back up quite a bit. And against Glover Teixeira, can't afford to be making that mistake. We saw Santos many times in that third round take down Jamahal Hill against a cage and then navigate his way to the back of Jamahal Hill afterwards. Hill was able to escape that position against Santos or stand his way back up whilst being tired, by the way. I just don't think that Santos is the man he once was. I think Glover's still the man that he is. And I think if Santos can get you down, even if you haven't prepared for it, if Santos can get you down in the third round of a grappling match, where he's shown intent to grapple you in the first 2 rounds, so by the third round, there's no excuse. You know what I mean? There's no excuse in the third round to be like, oh my God, he's trying to take me down. I didn't see it coming. He's been trying to take you down that whole fight long. So if Santos can get you down and get you back in multiple occasions, I think Glover does the same and finds his finish. I got Glover. And also Hill's very reckless on the feet too at times. It'd be cool if he won though. That'd be a crazy scene. Jamahal Hill, what? Screaming with that big fucking stomach, wandering around the Brazilian arena, taunting the crowd and stuff. It might be like a Covington moment for him, you know what I mean? I can imagine Hill getting a big KO, everyone booing him, and him being fired up, full of adrenaline, going after the crowd. That could be a moment for Jamahal Hill that makes him as a superstar. The Brazil crowd is often, if you interact with them, especially negatively, it seems like that can really breed a lot of popularity and a lot of interest in the fan base in terms of the algorithm of the UFC Octagon interview on YouTube. So we'll see what happens, but I've got Glover Teixeira getting the second round, rear naked choke. I think he goes out there in the first round, dangerous striking from Jamahal Hill, lands a couple shots, Glover takes them, lands a couple of them back, but Jamahal Hill's getting the better of it. Towards the end of the round, Glover goes for a takedown, single leg. Jamahal stuffs it, but Glover uses it to get him to the cage, gets him down against the cage. Hill gets back up, but Glover's on him around the waist till the end of the round, kneeing the thigh, looking to take the back position, punching in that position, dragging him down again. Hill gets back up. Round 2, I think it'll be very patient on the feet. Hill will land some good shots. Glover will get the takedown after sort of like moving out of the way and finding his distance again. Hill will get back up, but Glover will start dragging him down against the cage, eventually finding the sub. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.